Hey out there, all you beautiful internet wayfarers. It's time yet again for another scintillating top 10 list. This time I've decided to do something a little different. Instead of listing off good songs or bad songs, I'm going to list off the most dated songs from each decade, starting off with the 1960s. The 1960s are a really fascinating decade because they're the first decade where music first became accessible to most bands and musicians. If you were a minor band or musician in the 60s, you could make songs, and before that wasn't really an option because recording technology was so limited. The cassette tape first came into use in the 1960s, as well as the single record, the little 45-inch. So it's a very interesting decade in that regard, and there's a lot more dated music than you might expect as a result. A lot of bands that were just one-hit wonders, or novelty songs, or you just pumped out crap that was trying to hitch a ride on the big trend at the time. So don't be fooled. Not every song from the 60s is an iconic masterpiece like White Rabbit or Louie Louie or Psychotic Reaction. There's a ton of shit from the 1960s, as this list is going to prove. But needless to say, this ought to be a really interesting list. So let's just dive straight the flip into it. At number 10, we got 16 Reasons by Connie. You probably know 16 Reasons from the movie Mulholland Drive, the scene where Justin Theroux is on the movie lot and he sees Naomi Watts and the girl in the pink dress is singing this song. And I can definitely see why David Lynch chose this song. It's a really weird song, and it just kind of speaks to that Lynch sensibility. Like only David Lynch would know the deep cuts enough to dredge this one out of the muck. This is a really underwhelming song for a female sung song in the 1960s. You know, in the 1960s we see all these great girl groups. You got My Boyfriend's Back by the Angels. That's a great one, really bringing the heat. We got Please Mr. Postman. Please Mr. Postman's the shit. I can't get enough of Please Mr. Postman. And then of course you got Leslie Gore. Leslie Gore being one of the first feminist icons, making songs about how men can't push her around and she's her own gal, and I think that's very admirable. The 16 Reasons is the low-hanging fruit of the bunch. It's really boring, bland, derivative, unoriginal. There's probably 100 songs like this, but they've all been lost to time. 16 Reasons is just a song where Connie Stevens goes on and on about how cute this guy is and why she loves him. And it's kind of warm and sentimental in a way, but as an aromantic, I don't really understand this type of song or why someone would just dedicate an entire song to listing off reasons why you love someone. I mean, you know, you love someone, you don't need to go into that much explicit detail about why they're so great. But then again, here I am making a fucking top 10 list like every other fucking week, so, you know, I'm an obsessive list compiler too. Nonetheless, it's just a really weird format that doesn't sound that great in song form, and I don't really get the point of this song. It's just kind of a weird little novelty. It has an okay structure, I guess, which is why it's so low on the list. Like, it's not a terrible song or anything, but it is the kind of really, basic, boring relationship song that you'd only hear in the 60s. It's basically the equivalent of, Olivia Rodrigo or something today, to give you a basic idea. At number 9, we got The Game of Love by Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders. I'm low-key obsessed with this song. This is one of those 60s songs that sounds amazing. Like, the guitar part is great, the percussion's on point, and it would be amazing if it wasn't for the lyrics, because the lyrics are just inadvertently dated, which is why it's on this list. This isn't necessarily bad songs, it's just songs that have aged really, really poorly. So Wayne Fontana is like, the purpose of a man is to love a woman, and the purpose of a woman is to love a man. And it's just so weird to hear a song from a band called Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders and they're just like enforcing heteronormativity on everyone. Yeah, way to go, Wayne Fontana. You're really bending everyone's mind here, just telling everyone that they need to be straight. You could take a walk on the wild side with Lou Reed with all these transvestites and stuff, or you could just go with Wayne Fontana where everyone is just hooked up, a woman to man, and they're just like making out, and it's all just a straight party, you know, like, which would you rather listen to? Seriously. This song is also like a reference to the book of Genesis, where Wayne Fontana is like, it started long ago in the Garden of Eden when Adam said to Eve, baby, you're for me. A way to go, just referencing one of the worst pieces of world folklore ever written, just full of inconsistencies and shit, and not even to relay it accurately. Yeah, I remember that part in the Bible where Adam talks like a fucking, 60s do-nothing freaking English rock star. Yeah, I remember that. Of course, Wayne Fontana is British, so that explains a lot of the, like, just weird, insensitive, bizarre parts of this song that, like, would not make it into an American song even in the 1960s, because, like, holy shit, this is just, like, pure tripe. Which again is really sad, because the song is catchy as fuck, like the instrumental part is catchy as fuck, but the lyrics are just like so fucking boring. It's just like, la 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 love, let's play the game of love and let's fall in love. And again, as an aromantic asexual, there's like nothing here for me. There's no meat on the bone. There's nothing cool going on. It's literally just like a frickin' straight anthem. Make better lyrics for your songs. That's a good tip to any songwriter out there. If you have a really kickin' instrumental, don't just make it about how you want to fucking make out and how there's a hot girl. You know, that's not an interesting song anymore, and it wasn't even back in the 1960s. So yeah, The Game of Love, just a really dated song that is just like weirdly obsessed with being straight for whatever reason. You know, it could just be like a generic love song, but it's like, you gotta have a man and you gotta have a woman. Like a frickin' textbook or something with how like clinical it is. So in my mind, it just like defeats the purpose entirely of psych rock, which is kind of like ambiguity, you know? Anyway, that's why it's on here. It's just like a really dated song that would not like fly these days. At number 8, we got I Want Candy by the Strangeloves. I originally considered putting Sugar Sugar by the Archies on here, but I don't really think Sugar Sugar is dated. I mean, it is very influential in terms of bubblegum pop, and I mean, it's one of the most influential songs of all time. It inspired so much crap. I Want Candy, on the other hand, another sweet-themed song, is just like not really that influential. The only time I hear it is like in Easter commercials and Halloween commercials, advertising these days, and it's a really fucking overused song, and it's not even really that catchy like Sugar Sugar is. It's just kind of like repetitive, boring, stupid, the frickin' Australian gimmick where they got the didgeridoos and the fucking big drums and shit, and it's like, nobody even likes this song, but it's just overplayed so often that you just hear it all the fucking time. Kind of like What a Wonderful World or My Way or whatever, you know, it's just like, enough already. We've heard it a gazillion times. And that's why I'd say it's dated, because like everyone is sick of it at this point. And it's transcended pop to become like uber pop, and no one likes it anymore, and it's not even a good song, so like why do we keep just using it? It's I guess because it's like the only candy themed song aside from like Sugar Sugar, which is about sugar, you know, so that's not really applicable at a Halloween, whatever. Anyway, moving on. At number 7, we got Pretty Flamingo by Manfred Mann. I knew I was going to put at least one Manfred Mann song on here. Manfred Mann are kind of like the self-aware Beatles in that they know that their music is like dumb crap. I actually have their greatest hits tape. They make dumb crap regardless because it's what was popular at the time. And they're most well known for Do Wah Diddy and Mighty Quinn. Mighty Quinn's actually a fucking jam. Pretty Flamingo is, I think hands down their worst song, and it's the one I always skip on their tape because it's just so fucking boring. So this is yet another just hot guy likes hot girl and wants to make out type song, just like, oh, you're so pretty, oh dang, let's make out. Which again, no meat on the bone for me. Where's the fucking dormouse talking? Where's the fucking, psych trip to the end of time? Where's the Lizard King? Where's all this cool 60s shit? This is the type of music that reminds you, hey, the 60s were full of derivative pop garbage. The basic premise of Pretty Flamingo is on Manfred Mann's block, there's this girl, and all the guys just like crowd around her and ogle her and are like, wow, she's hot, and she looks like a flamingo. So let's call her Flamingo, and this just like catches on. I don't even know how a girl would look like a flamingo, because like, was she always just on one leg? Does she just like hop everywhere? How's that even fucking work? Like, that's the main trait of a flamingo. Just a terrible song that comes off as like really boring, repetitive, derivative of a jillion other songs like this. There's nothing special about it. It's so slow, and how the Manfred Mann guy sings, the pretty flamingo. I think about it, it sounds a lot like Penny Lane, which is another song I absolutely fucking hate from the 60s. But yeah, Pretty Flamingo, an oft overlooked crapola song, overlooked for good reason, because like, seriously, who is thinking about this tripe these days? Only me, I suppose. A really bad song. Stay away from it. It's lousy. Alright, at number 6, we got proof that I don't just pick on the Beatles, I don't just pick on bands that I don't like, that I think are overdone. I'm willing to call out an actually competent rock band that's legends, okay? Number 6, we got Under My Thumb by the Rolling Stones. Now, for those of you who think that the dislike towards this song is just some new woke shit, no, back then it was equally panned by feminists of the time, and just by like people with ears, because if you listen to the lyrics of this song, it's really apparent that it's just about Mick Jagger just like manipulating this girl, fucking her mind around, and basically just turning her into a slave. The same goes for Brown Sugar. I'm not sure if Brown Sugar is from the 60s. I guess it is, or maybe it's like on the cusp of 1970. Doesn't matter. Brown Sugar is also obviously a very problematic song about just making slaves do sex with you. So I don't know what was up with the Rolling Stones. Again, they're British, so much like with Roald Dahl, I don't know why everyone is so surprised that like British guys aren't the most like up to date on like slavery and like gender relations and stuff. Like, they literally have a fucking monarchy, they're not going to be like the most open-minded about like progressive topics. But again, Under My Thumb is just like a really lame ass song. The hook isn't that catchy, the lyrics aren't that catchy. I mean, nothing about this song is like amazing. It's not Jumpin' Jack Flash, it's not Gimme Shelter. It's just really bland and forgettable. But unlike Pretty Flamingo, where it's just like a bunch of guys looking at this hot girl, it's like, hey, let's turn the hot girl into a submissive even though she doesn't want to be. And it's like, Mick Jagger, why don't you just like break up with this girl if she's that like controlling and you want to be in control? Why don't you just go with some other girl who is like more willing to let you be the dominant one? Why like manipulate this girl into doing shit she doesn't want to do? Great way to just fuck up your relationship. Again, I'm a romantic and I've never been in a romantic relationship, but like, I don't understand why someone would be in a relationship if they're not even interested in like treating their partner with equal importance and like exchanging ideas and becoming a more well-rounded, developed person throughout the process. I'm not sure why you just want like a person to do everything you say and make you a sandwich and just agree with you all the time. That sounds pretty fucking boring, quite honestly. Yeah, Under My Thumb is just a really dated, cringe song that's just like, just full of dumb ideas about like, I gotta be the one in control. and it really does not sound good, especially today, but it didn't sound good back then either, and nobody's ever really liked this song. Mick Jagger said sorry for it, and it's just a shame, you know, because the Rolling Stones is one of those bands that, like, goes hard if they try. But again, this is an example of them just trying to give in to, like, the pop trends and just make this, like, dumb, sappy, romantic shit, which doesn't suit them at all, you know, because, like, Jumpin' Jack Flash isn't a fucking romance song, it's a fucking banger, and that's where the Rolling Stones really, like, shine. But it's just an example of how, like, a fucking relationship song can just, like, suck ass, be totally tone-deaf and sensitive, and boring, too. Under My Thumb's a fucking boring song. I don't know who'd listen to this, so... yeah, it's probably the Rolling Stones' worst song, Brown Sugar being their second worst, but, you know. Overall, I like the Rolling Stones. They're a good fucking rock band, so. Anyway, moving on. At 5, we got Little Red Riding Hood by Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. And I could have put Wooly Bully here, because they're also behind that, but I gave it some thought, and Wooly Bully's actually kind of a fucking jam. I kind of actually like that song, so it's not going here. Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs are dated unto themselves because of their culturally appropriative dress, where they dress up like they're Egyptian, which is kind of dumb and would really only fly in the 1960s. I'm not gonna fault Sam the Sham, you know, it was just a stupid gimmick, just like Wolfman Jack or whatever, you know, just trying to be outrageous and wacky and like, oh looky, we're the 5 Frankensteins over here. We all dress up like Frankenstein. Aren't we different? Aren't we fucking cool? But unlike Wooly Bully, which has like a really great hook and pretty damn good vocals, pretty good composition overall, Little Red Riding Hood is boring as piss. It's literally just a recreation of the fairy tale, except now, plot twist, Little Red Riding Hood is hot, and also the wolf is horny. Don't you want to hear a version where it's just like, I don't think little big girl should go walking through these spooky old woods alone. Holy shit, this song blows. I don't get who would listen to this. Like, what's the appeal here? Just like hearing a horny version of a fucking nursery rhyme, like, just, I don't get it at all, you know. Again, I'm asexual, but I don't get the point of making a rock song like this. You could make a rock song about so much other shit. I don't even know if this would be, like, technically considered rock, because it's so fucking slow. It's practically a fucking precursor to doom metal over here. It's so dragged out and monotonous, just with this terrible Big Bad Wolf impression. Yeah, I don't know what Sam the Sham was thinking, but that name is accurate, you know, he is kind of a fucking sham. I respect it, you know, props to Sam the Sham. But why was the 60s so fucking horny, just like weirdly horny? I'm guessing that's going to just be a running theme, like all the most dated songs from every decade are going to be the most horny, because, like, go figure, you know. That just comes off as really fucking cringe in hindsight. But anyway, yeah, number 5, Little Red Riding Hood by Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. Okay, it's number 4, and we got Maxwell's Silver Hammer. Bang, bang, Maxwell shit the bed, and then he went to dead, and then his eyes rolled over and he killed somebody. Bang, 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 bang. This is the worst Beatles song, I would argue. Even Beatles fans generally don't like Maxwell's Silver Hammer unless they're, like, hopped up on opioids or something, because seriously, who the fuck likes this song? It's terrible. It's terrible when the Beatles sing it. It's terrible when Steve Martin sings it. If Steve Martin can't save your song, it's just not a good song. I have a long-standing history of fucking hating the Beatles, and if anyone says that they like the Beatles or the Beach Boys as rock bands, as like pioneering rock icons, then you can bet your ass they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they've never listened to a Who or Kinks album in their fucking lives. I don't get who listens to something like Maxwell's Silver Hammer or Rocky Raccoon Part 2, Rocky's Electric Shitter, and goes, oh wow, this is quality rock music right here, this is great, yeah, I can dance to this, this is a fucking bop right here, this is a great example of the genre of rock. Like, think about this, right? Neil fucking Diamond is still alive. He has Parkinson's, but he's still fucking alive. And yet people know about Neil Diamond less than they know about fucking, like, Paul McCartney. Like, what's up with that, you know? Like, Neil Diamond songs are fucking amazing. Have you ever heard, like, Cherry Cherry? I saw this video, it's like him at the Greek Theater 2012, and he, like, goes through the band and shit, and it's, like, fucking electric. The guy's still playing fucking 60s rock songs in 2012, and yet, like, people don't know who Neil Diamond is, or go through every Neil Diamond album with the obsessiveness that they go through every fucking Beatles album. Like, the Beatles albums aren't that fucking complex. They're not, like, concept albums. They're just shitty nonsense. Maxwell's Silver Hammer is a song that deserves to stay in the trash. Wait, is Abbey Road from 1970 or 69? I fucking forget. Doesn't matter. Maxwell's Silver Hammer makes it on here. I don't fucking care. Don't at me in the comments, okay? It's just the worst Beatles song. And if you don't like Maxwell's Silver Hammer here, then, you know, fuck it. Put literally any Beatles song in this spot. They ruined the fucking decade. They're crap. Their songs are crap. Not a good example of rock music. Not a good example of music. These guys are untalented bozos, and I'm sick of hearing about them. I know this is nothing new, like everyone secretly doesn't like the Beatles deep down, but I'm autistic, so I'm willing to say this, like, they suck ass. Anyway, before I go on a whole Beatles tirade, this is supposed to be about Maxwell's Silver Hammer. I fucking hate the song. Steve Martin did a cover of it, it's really bad. You can go watch it on YouTube. Most embarrassing thing Steve Martin ever did. And moving on. Okay, next up at number 3, I'm kind of cheating here because this isn't really a song, it's more of a pastiche, an homage, a medley. I'm talking about Good Old Rock and Roll by the Dave Clark Five, who were the major competitors of the Beatles during their early years. Yet another entry in what became colloquially known as the British Invasion. This song is fucking awful. It's basically just 20 fucking rock and roll songs just crammed into each other with no reason or rhyme, and the Dave Clark Five trying to sound like they're Chuck Berry. Of course, they don't have the guitar skills of Chuck Berry because Chuck Berry's a fucking icon. I chose this song to put in the dated category mainly just because it was dated for the time. Like, there's nothing more dated than trying to sound like the 50s while you're in the 60s and, like, the world is moving on and you're still just, like, regurgitating 50s rockabilly sounds with, like, no reason behind it. You're just like, yeah, this is good old rock and roll right here. So it's very tacky in that regard. But also because I think that this song speaks to something that was going through the heads of every phony, washed up British invasion star at the time, which was like, holy shit, I can just rip off the music of African Americans and get fucking rich and famous off of it. Because when you get right down to it, that's what absolutely disgusts me about the British invasion, and particularly about, like, the really bad bands that came out of the British invasion, like the Dave Clark Five, that didn't bring anything new to the table, is that they were literally just trying to rip off, like, African American music. And I feel more entitled, as at the very least an American, to, like, make rock music than a British guy, because Britain didn't even fucking invent rock music. They literally just ripped it off and were like, yeah, we're the new Chuck Berry now. Fuck you, Chuck Berry. We're you now. Like, I respect Elvis, because, like, Elvis grew up in that climate and, like, you know, was friends with Chuck Berry and a lot of the early rock and roll stars, and he doesn't come off as phony or inauthentic because of that, because he's an American. But when you get a bunch of these British guys with identical bowl cuts all just going, yeah, mate, we're the new Chuck Berry, yo. We're gonna rock this town, yo. We're gonna rock it up. And good old rock and roll in particular is just filled with all these horrible, like, references to American shit And it's so fucking awkward because you can just tell the Dave Clark Five don't have a fucking clue of what they're talking about. Like when they talk about Detroit or whatever, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Dave Clark Five? Just talk about British shit, because you're from Britain. Like, the Kinks and the Who and shit never had a problem with that. Add to that rock and roll wasn't even old at this point. This song came out in fucking 1969, so rock was only like 20 years old, like not that old, but they were already like trying to pander to the nostalgia circuit and just like appropriate culture, which is like really gross. Like, if you put together, you know, a fucking cover of, like, NWA and Wu-Tang, and you were, like, some white guy, like, that wouldn't fly today, so why the fuck does it fly when, like, Dave Clark Five do it, and they put together, like, 20, like, just inherently, like, black rock songs? Like, what the fuck's up with that? The 60s were a weird time. Anyway, maybe I'm just crazy, and maybe I focus too much on the fact that rock music is an inherently black genre invented by black people. You know, let's just erase that. That's not a thing. Let's just give all the credit to the Beatles. Of course, the Beatles. We bow to you, you rock overlords. Oh, the Beatles. Anyway, moving on. Okay, at number 2, we got Winchester Cathedral. This is one of those songs that you probably know the instrumental bit of. It goes like do 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 do, and it sounds like, you know, some fucking Benny Hill shit, just some very like tacky trumpet garbage. It plays in the back of a fucking Skippy peanut butter advertisement. And this is by a group called the New Vaudeville Band. If you thought that nostalgia was a new internet exclusive thing, and it's only now that we're looking back at the 80s with rose-colored glasses and shit, well, boy oh boy are you in for a surprise. Do you know that during the 1960s there were a bunch of old wackos who just liked listening to 20s shit? And we're like, let's do the Charleston again, William. And then they'd put on the fucking RCA Victor clamshell and go to town and pretend like it was fucking 1925. Well, that's exactly what the New Vaudeville Band were trying to take advantage of with this patent stinker, which sounds like a reject from a fucking Laurel and Hardy soundtrack. Well, I doubt even Laurel and Hardy would have music this fucking cringe. That's the same reason that songs like Penny Lane get under my skin so fucking much, because it's just like trying to make your rock song sound like an old 1920s silent movie score, like Penny Lane is the fucking place where the cobblestones are, and the bubblegum is 1 cent, and the tobacco and asbestos is in the walls. This is so fucking cringe and nostalgia pandering, and again makes the song extremely dated. And the same goes for Winchester Cathedral, but even more so, because these guys literally just branded themselves as the New Vaudeville Band, even though, like, vaudeville was dead by this point. You're not going to be the New Vaudeville Band, you're just the fucking nostalgia panderers. They could just call themselves that and save a lot of time and hassle. This song is cringe, it's ass, it gets stuck in your head, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to get this thing out. Get me a fucking scalpel, get me a fucking ice pick so I can drill this parasite out of my scalp, because it's positively insufferable, but it's just like the Benny Hill theme, it won't go the fuck away. And it's a great example of nostalgia for the 20s and 30s in the 60s, which is a really weird phenomenon that you wouldn't consider, but it was a fucking thing. Just go look at it, it's really fucking interesting. But yeah, also dated as fuck, and dated in the 60s, quite literally, because it was trying to just recapture the sound of the 30s and whatever. Okay, it's time for the number 1 spot. Drum roll, please. Drum roll, please. There's a momentous occasion here. Drum roll, please. And the number 1 most dated song of the 1960s, hands down, no questions, no contest, is Surfin' USA by the fucking Beach Boys. I do not understand this song. Once again, if anyone says that the Beach Boys or the Beatles are their favorite rock band, then you can bet your ass they're not listening to Grace Slick and the Great Society, because Nobody who listens to the Beatles or the Beach Boys listens to any other band. They consider the Beatles the greatest British rock band of all time, and they consider the Beach Boys the greatest American rock band of all time, and there's no getting around that. You can't convince them of anything else. The Beach Boys fucking suck. Whoever thought these guys were a competent group? Not only do they have ties to the Manson family, you can listen to their horrible song, fucking Never Learn Not to Love, for a great example of just like how to make utter crap with the deranged psycho cult leader, because Dennis Wilson just joined the Manson family for like drug-fueled orgies with the Manson girls, which is crazy, you know. That's crazy enough in itself, that like we're giving credit to this group of bozos who got suckered into this fucking scheme and didn't see right through it. But, you know, when you live in California, you don't have that kind of awareness about your environment. You're just kind of like, oh, fuck yeah, let's get fucking blazed and sexed all night, bro. We're in California now, bro. We're in fucking LA. The Beach Boys are the worst aspect of 1960s surf culture, which isn't all bad. Like, I like the Ventures. I like me some fucking Miserlou. I like a lot of music that's influenced by surf music, like Fatboy Slim's The Rockefeller Skank. I think that's actually pretty fucking good. What I don't like is the shitty, boring, like, fucking tacky-ass beach culture of the 60s. It was like Gidget and Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello and fucking Beach Blanket Bingo. And that's the same reason I utterly loathe SpongeBob, because I view it as Californian propaganda trying to say, like, the ocean is so cool. Ooh, the ocean is so cool. Fuck the ocean. I'm a fucking Coloradan. I've never seen the ocean in my life. Fuck that shit. I'm on land, bitch. But I see the Beach Boys as Californian propaganda too, and I have a particular contempt for Surfin' USA just because it doesn't make any fucking sense if you listen to the lyrics. If everybody had an ocean across the USA. Right, that's the first line of Surfin' USA, and I'm obsessed with this line to the point where I made an entire song responding to this line on my album Adult Swamp. I call it The Trial of Brian Wilson, because it's like, how the fuck do you have an ocean across the USA? Brian Wilson was branded as a genius by the media, but he doesn't understand basic ecology. You can't have an ocean across an entire continent. That's not how it works. The ocean is only at the coasts. You can't surf the fucking USA because most of America is not California. Spoiler alert. And that's yet another reason I fucking hate this song, because it's so California-centric, so self-absorbed, so fucking self-centered and narcissistic to be like, yeah, we're fucking rich and we can go out on the beach and look at the hot babes and surf those waves and slurp down a cool ice cream sundae, and we're privileged as fuck and we'll never have a problem in our fucking lives. Meanwhile, there's like 49 other states that aren't California, and you don't get to just sit out on the beach all day and fuck around and play shitty music. Surfin' USA is the most dated song of the 1960s, because you would never in a million years have a song like this come out today, even from California, because it's literally the stupidest fucking song. It's just a song about surfing, which is even stupider than a relationship song, because at least a relationship song is like, there's like a point to it, like you're building a relationship. Oh great, you're meeting girls or whatever. The Beach Boys are literally just wasting their time out on the ocean, just fucking around, just like, yeah, we're fucking around, da-da-da-da-da. It's the stupidest garbage music, and I don't get how anyone regards these guys as like psychedelic pioneers. Psychedelic how? They probably don't even smoke weed, they just like drink fucking margaritas. They're about as innovative as like Jimmy Buffett or something. Actually, Jimmy Buffett's more innovative, because at least he like pretends to give a shit. Holy fuck, the music video for Surfin' USA, where they're all wearing these stupid fucking shirts, and you can't tell any of them apart, and at the end Brian Wilson does this horrible dated as fuck dance where he's like, duh, 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 duh. It looks like a fucking caveman just pounding in the dirt down there. and they all have these fucking bell bottoms that make them look like Gilligan, except unironically, like the people thought that was hot at the time to look like fucking Gilligan, which I don't get, because like Gilligan was designed to be like not hot, you know. I get why like people thought that fashion was attractive at the same time that Gilligan's Island was airing, but they're literally just all wearing fucking Gilligan costumes, and they look stupid as fuck, just all singing together. Now, some people consider Surfin' Bird by the Trashmen a novelty song, but that shit's actually good. That's actually a good fucking surf song. Surfin' USA is the worst. It belongs in the basement, and it does not deserve to be let out. You don't want to let Surfin' USA out, and you don't want to pay any attention to it, because if you do, it will possess you, and then it'll possess your seventh son and unleash the curse of Brian Wilson upon your entire family, and you don't want that. So keep Surfin' USA locked up in the fucking basement, okay? Anyway, yeah, that's hands down the most dated song of the 1960s. Dated dancing, dated costumes, dated sound, dated subject material, everything fucking dated, boring, vapid trash. Nothing interesting about it. It's literally just factory music made for dumb people. Anyway, that's the entire list. Congratulations, you've made it through my hilarious diatribe, and now you get to go down and argue in the comments about how I'm wrong. What do you think about these songs? Are there some dated as fuck songs that I missed? There probably are, because the trash really never runs out. The dumpster is always full, and you'd be amazed at what you can find if you just go looking for it. Anyway, that's my list of top 10 dated songs from the 1960s. I've been Nicholas R. Cicada. Peace out, yo.